The story starts with a group of friends taking Dan's new yacht out on the ocean for a weekend cruise. There's Amy and her husband James. They've even brought along their baby daughter Sarah, plus Dan's girlfriend Michelle, and their friends Lauren and Zach. Amy is terrified of the water. Her dad drowned when she was a kid, so she never takes off her life jacket. But they all think it'll be a fun trip. At first, everyone is having a blast. Lauren, Michelle, James, and Zach all jump off the boat to swim around. Amy stays on the boat with baby Sarah, and Dan is with her. Dan starts joking about how Amy is scared, then suddenly scoops her up and jumps into the water with her. Amy screams, and when they all pop back up, they realize something has gone horribly wrong. No one lowered the boat's ladder. Now all 6 adults are stuck in the water with no easy way to get back on board. The ladder is still hanging above the water, out of reach. They try calling for help. In the distance, they see a small sailboat with some teenagers on it. The friends wave and shout, but the teenagers just wave back and sail off, thinking it's a friendly hello. Then Zach's cell phone starts ringing. It was in a shirt he tossed on deck. Dan grabs at it, but the shirt and phone fall into the water. They pick it up and answer, but underwater, all they hear is some people singing, "Happy Birthday." The phone dies after that. So now they have no help coming, and no way to call for help. Next, they try to figure out how to climb back up. They rip pieces off their swimsuits and tie them together into a kind of rope. They throw one end of this makeshift rope over the railing. Big Zach volunteers to try first. He climbs up on the rope and almost reaches the edge of the boat, but suddenly the rope snaps under his weight. Zach falls back into the water with a splash. Now they're mostly naked, tired, cold, and still floating in the ocean with nothing useful. Then James tries another idea. He dives under the boat to look at the engine's propeller, thinking maybe he can use it or unhook something to climb. While he's down there, he accidentally drops his pocket knife. He dives down again to grab it, but in his panic, he smacks his head on the boat's hull. He comes up bleeding from a head wound and immediately blacks out. He's out cold in the water with a big gash on his head. Everyone panics even more. Meanwhile, Zach grabs the dropped knife and starts stabbing at the side of the yacht, trying to carve out a hold. Dan swims over to help her stop him, but in the struggle, Zach accidentally stabs himself in the chest. Blood gushes out and he collapses into Lauren's arms, slumped and silent. The friends start screaming about sharks, terrified by the blood in the water. Michelle completely loses it. She screams that she's not about to just float there and drown, and she starts swimming toward the distant shore. Amy and Dan yell at her to stop, but Michelle kicks off and swims fast, disappearing into the waves. No one follows her. James is still knocked out. Lauren holds Zach until he goes limp. He dies there in her arms. Heartbroken, Lauren tells everyone she's not going to wait around either. She dives off and swims toward shore as well, leaving Amy and Dan completely alone. Now it's just Amy and Dan left in the dark ocean. They drift through the night together. It starts raining, they're freezing, and it's just Amy and Dan hanging on. Eventually, James, who was bleeding from his head injury, slips under and dies, disappearing underwater. Now, Amy and Dan are the only people still alive, floating in the water. Dan is desperate to get out. He remembers the clear lens from his broken snorkel mask and uses it as a tool. He wedges the lens into a crack on the side of the yacht and explains his plan. Amy should climb onto his shoulders to get up. He holds onto the sharp lens with one hand and tells Amy to step onto his shoulders. Amy is terrified, but she tries. She carefully climbs up Dan's body, using his hands and shoulders to pull herself up. It hurts Dan's hand badly. It's bleeding and cut, but he doesn't let go. Finally, Amy grabs the top edge of the yacht and hauls herself up onto the deck. Once Amy is on deck, she immediately lowers the ladder into the water. She rushes below to check on baby Sarah. The baby is awake and crying, but okay. Amy wraps Sarah in a towel and tries to comfort her. Dan starts to climb the ladder, but suddenly he pauses. He looks shocked and quietly lets go of the ladder. Dan just floats beside the boat, as if he's given up. Amy realizes what he's doing. He's overcome with grief, and she jumps back into the water and swims to him. She grabs Dan and pulls him up the ladder too, not letting him drown. They spend the night on the yacht, exhausted and in shock. The next morning, a fishing boat sails by. The fishermen hear baby Sarah crying on board and come to investigate. They find Amy on the deck holding Sarah. Both of them are alive, though shaken. Dan is lying on the deck under a towel, alive but unconscious. The fishermen rescue them and take them aboard their boat. In the end, Amy and baby Sarah survived the ordeal, and Dan was rescued too. All the other friends, James, Michelle, Zach, and Lauren, ended up dying in the water. It's a really tense and tragic story, all because they forgot to lower the boat's ladder.